Good morning. Back from a break. Senate Agriculture, Friday, April 4th, all over again, like Groundhog's Day. And we're gonna spend some time with Ellen Kaler, Working Lands Enterprise Initiative, on a budget request. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Thanks for having me, and I really appreciate it. Ellen Kaler, Executive Director, the Vermont Sustainable Jobs Fund. We are a member of the Working Lands Coalition, which is a coalition of a lot of different organizations. How many are we this year?
I think like 10 or
10 organizations. And our sole purpose is to advocate for funding for the Working Lands Enterprise Fund annually. As you know, it's in statute as a fund. It is administered by the Agency of Agriculture. You had 2 days of testimony from the staff at the Agency of Agriculture as well as grantees, I believe in February. Just as a reminder, the governor's recommend budget is at $1 million of base, and the House Agriculture Committee put in a budget memo request for an increase to 3 million, going up 2 million in one time in addition to the base. And House Commerce, their budget memo requested a $500,000 increase to base and another million in one time. The House Appropriations Committee kept it at the governor's recommend at $1 million. The Working Lands Coalition has asked for, and what we're advocating for is 3 million this year. And there has been precedent for it being at 3 million in the past. Back in 2024, we had some additional one-time ARPA money for the board to work with, and that led to not only increased number of grants, but also the size of the grants. One of the things, as you well know, for businesses, whether they're farm businesses, food businesses, forest product businesses, or businesses in any sector, they like predictability, they like stability, they like to have some sense that year over year, there's going to be funding available to be able to expand their businesses. These are businesses with very low margins. They tend to have very low margins. And so their ability to invest is determined by, in many cases, whether or not loans are available, whether that's from BAC, whether that's from Farm Credit East or FSA. And in order to get those loans, oftentimes they need to make sure that they have enough equity available to be able to secure that loan. Grants, like what we have with the Working Lands Enterprise Fund, when they receive grants, that functions like equity. So it oftentimes enables them to secure a loan that they otherwise would not be able to. So that's why you all have on your web page the handout, and I've got copies if you'd like to see it. But the Working Lands Enterprise Fund, yes, actually, yeah, sure. The Working Lands Enterprise Fund, over its lifetime, starting in 2012, has distributed $18.8 million in state funding, but that has enabled an additional almost 31 million in additional private investment. So where that comes from often is in the form of loans that they're getting from BAC and other places. So it's not just having a lesser amount of grant fund dollars available. It actually can lead to fewer projects actually going forward, because overall those grant funds are so essential as a mix of the capital needed to do those projects. The other thing I think is really important to remember is that this is one of the few tools you all have for prospective, forward-looking investment in projects that advance not only the food system, agriculture in Vermont, but also the forest products industry. It's all working lands businesses, because this is looking at making investments in our future. It is not relief oriented. And that's not to say there doesn't need to be relief funds. As you all know, that is critical as well. But we would be, the coalition really feels that it's also important as part of the state's investment in the Farm to Plate strategic plan that we were talking to you about in January, that these are funds that are the state's commitment to investing in future of the businesses that are in the farm, forest, and food sectors. So we would want to ask you respectfully to understand the challenges that you all are facing with the budget this year. Totally understand that. And that $3 million will leverage a lot of additional investment in our farm, food, and forest businesses. It will help to strengthen the rural economy. It adds jobs at a time when we know there's going to be job losses given what's happening. I think the other, and I think that given the current situation with the uncertainty caused by the tariffs that were announced this week, it also poses an opportunity for our farm and forest and food businesses, because the opportunity is with fewer imports coming into the country, we still need to eat. We still need to build houses. We still need to have kitchen tables built. And I think there is an opportunity for Vermont farm, food, and forest businesses to consider how to meet this current situation and gear up towards meeting more of our own food needs and our own the types of products that our wood goes into making. So I think that's going to require some businesses to pivot, to really consider new market opportunities, new places to sell their products. And that support is another part of what the Working Lands Enterprise Fund supports. Part of the funding goes towards technical assistance providers who work directly with farm, food, and forest businesses to help them think about how do you pivot? How do you plan for succession? How do you enter new markets? How do you raise additional capital? So this is really a very pro-business, pro-market fund, one of the few really that the state has as a lever to really stimulate rural economic development. And just really respectfully ask that you also advocate to get us up to fund up to $3 million in this coming year.
What other funding do you get?
So the fund in the last several years has been the recipient of a donation from the Vermont Skiers Association of about $15,000 or $20,000, I believe, and those have been used to help businesses go to trade shows. So they can apply for up to $5,000 to support their ability to go to, say, the Fancy Food Show in New York or something like that. But otherwise, it is all state funding.
How big is your organization?
It's Agency of Agriculture it manages it. There are 2 full-time staff that manage the fund, and then the board of, I think there's 18 on the board. They are appointed by the speaker, the committee on committees, and the governor. They're all particular seats for specific expertise. And then there's 3 ex officio members on the board. Someone from VITA, which is Sarah Isham has been representing VITA. The farm VHCD, their Farm and Forest Viability Program Director, sits on the board, and the Vermont Sustainable Jobs Fund, meaning me, sits on the board as well. I am here only representing the coalition, member of the coalition. I'm not speaking on behalf of the board or the agency. But what I can say is the board is really dedicated. They spend a lot of time. Most of it is volunteer. That some of the private sector folks can get the $50 a day per diem. The board meets monthly and then has 2 day-long retreats to really consider how best to deploy and strategically deploy the funds in the coming year. And so it's a very, from my perspective, both on the inside and the outside, it's an extremely well-run program. It's very efficient in how it acts and operates. The staff does a lot of work supporting applicants in preparing applications and also providing feedback, especially when they don't receive a grant. And it also it's one of the only, it may be the only, if not only, then one of the few, where it's an amazing relationship that's been developed between the Agency of Agriculture, the Agency of Commerce, and the Department of Forest, Parks, and Recreation, because all 3 of those are on the board. The board is chaired by the Secretary of Agriculture, and it's administered out of the Agency of Agriculture, but it really is an independent board that makes its own decisions about the grants.
So what I'm trying to get at just a little bit is there are gonna be some cost shares amongst employees. How that $1 million, how much is going back to how much is getting back out into how much of that $1 million is actually getting back and working
$1 million.
Okay, full $1 million.
It's all, when it's only $1 million, all that money is used for grants.
Okay,
So obviously with $3 million, there's more work. And how the agency chooses to manage that is obviously for the agency to decide. But my understanding is that the current 2-person staff with also gets support from all the other folks in the agency that does the business office and the some of the support work on actually putting the paperwork together for the grants, that is all covered inside the agency's current budget. That's my understanding.
Okay. Questions? Also, thank you all.
Yeah.
Appreciate you very much.
I really appreciate you considering this very seriously.
Yeah.
And anything we can do to provide additional insights, businesses to talk to do that.
Fair enough.
Thanks. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Anybody else like to talk? Everybody good?
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee just to talk about, I was out in the hallway with the pro tem and the chair of natural resources and, so some small tweaks on our miscellaneous bill, but I think it's gonna come out of their whole with our language in there. And, as we had said from day one, we knew kind of that we were just kind of threading the needle as far as language out there that would be a landing page for other stuff. I think it still might be, and they were just making sure while we were talking about stakeholder groups and this and that. And listen, we're just looking for language. We're looking for our language intact. Whatever happens after that, we don't have any control of. It's in your committee, and we're trying to make sure that our language comes out as somewhat intact, that whole. And that sounds like they're going to vote that out, and so they're going to be all good with that. So good. As kind of discussed a little bit of a straw poll, we'll get what's happening as well. I mean, I think that we can safely say that we're in support of 300,000 for crop cash and see if we can't get about $200,000 for crop cash plus. We're in agreement with that.
Yeah.
And add that to the list of where we go. We got until Tuesday. I'd like to be able to say on Tuesday when we go back to the chairs meeting about where we're at. I will apologize for saying, because when you're wrong, and I'm glad that Dumpa came back in. So
yeah, I just my personal opinion on that. It's a win-win. It's good for the business. I think in my district, I know the Norwich Farmers Market is an incredible advocate for it. They're expanding some of that program. I'm sure helped with that expansion. And right now, I'm not even talking about people hurting, and they're being able to help, but I'm just talking from the business side of it. You tell me, growth.
and I like to drive by those and see how many people there are there, right? I mean, isn't that
I was amazed.
Isn't it community?
Yeah,
I mean, you can do an event like that and just get more people out and communicating with one another.
Yeah.
Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? Trying to get people out there and seeing one another, and talking to one another and all of that.
Yeah.
So, and then at the end of the day, people benefit from it. So people are helped from it. So, any other thoughts?